Hi, my name's Bill Turner, and I'm a good Okie. I can talk good Okie like the best of them, but I ain't gonna in this video because I don't want to be persuasive, and ain't nobody gonna listen to a damn Okie. Alright, so I'm gonna go back to my usual, actual, normal voice, my normal manner of speaking, which is not good Okie, as you can tell. I really don't like video. I prefer to write. I have a PhD and a law degree, and I've written a lot of things and posted a few things. But everybody seems to like video these days, and everybody wants to watch videos, so I figured I'll do a video. Oh, and by the way, I like my hair. I probably should, there's not a lot I can really do about it. I did a sample video, and I saw my hair and it looks kind of crazy, and I kind of like it this way. So I'm not very good at video. I know you can't see my left eye, my right eye, my right eye in the video. Doesn't matter. I don't really care. I'm tough. This is my video. So, but the point of the video really is to talk about how stupid and crazy Donald Trump is, and how stupid and crazy the Republican Party is, and how stupid and crazy you have to be in order to support either Donald Trump or the Republican Party. And they're pretty much, they're pretty much all one big lump now. Donald Trump took over the Republican Party very easily. There's all these people out there wondering, oh my goodness, how Donald Trump changed the Republican Party. He didn't change a damn thing. If he changed, the Republican Party let him take it. He took over the Republican Party without firing a shot in 2016. It was very easy for him to take over the Republican Party. He kept a candidate with hardly any resistance. And then they governed quite happily with him for 2 years. They had complete control over the legislative branch of government, but control of both houses of Congress and the presidency for 2 years, and they're happy as clams. So Republicans didn't, Donald Trump is doing what the Republican Party wants. He's lowering taxes and passing and nominating incompetent, stupid, corrupt judges who won't say the Brown versus Board of Education is correctly decided. Brown versus Board of Education. This is where the Supreme Court held that racial segregation in public education is unconstitutional. Trump nominees would not say, yep, well, that's the right answer. And that's really easy. That's a no-brainer. It should be very simple. Okay, but sorry, I'm primarily here to talk right now about Donald Trump. He's still busy trying to pretend like he might not have lost the 2024 presidential election. He clearly did, in fact, lose the 2024 presidential election. He's got Rudy Giuliani out there dripping on his hair dye all over the place. He finally fired that crazy woman who says that Hugo Chavez is behind the conspiracy to steal the election from Trump. Stop the steal. This is stupid. If you're dumb enough to go out there with the big stop the steal sign out in public, you're just making an idiot of yourself. You're a fool. So anyway, I can't remember exactly when it was I first became aware that Donald Trump existed on the planet. But in the minute I hey, you gotta be kidding me. This guy, he's crazy. I mean, you take one look at him and immediately see that he's a third-rate used car salesman who just happened to get lucky. He got lucky because he happened to have a rich daddy who left him a big old fortune. And how can you take the man seriously? He got all that, supposedly anyway, he claims to be a billionaire, and you can't get a better haircut than that? Just stop. That's crazy. Look at the man, and he's a joke. He's a walking bad joke. Just instantly. My very first impression, you've got to be kidding me. Anybody can take this man seriously? I can't see how. But that was a long time ago. He certainly should never run for president. He has absolutely no relevant experience. He's never had public office before. He's supposedly a great businessman, but there's this ridiculous myth abroad in the land that, oh boy, if you're a good businessman, you'll be a good president. Which isn't true. They're two very different skill sets. And Donald Trump proved this by, he got in to become president and started trying to order members of the House of Representatives around and said as if they worked for him. They don't work for him. They work for their constituents, and they have their own thing going on there. Now, of course, obviously with the Republicans, he did have party loyalty to working to his advantage. And the only strength the Republicans have is party loyalty these days. They have no original ideas. All they want to do is cut taxes, which is really easy to sell politically, except for the fact that people are starting to figure out that it's only the Republican tax cuts usually mostly benefit rich people. We always hear about how rich people pay most of the federal taxes. Well, of course, they have most of the money. And why does anybody think there's any sort of problem that somebody like Jeff Bezos, who has billions of dollars in the bank, should pay a lot more in federal taxes than I do? Of course he should. Why is that a problem? He benefits enormously from the fact that we live in a stable, prosperous society full of people who can afford to buy his garbage, okay? And it's only because a lot of people can afford to buy his garbage that he's made all this money, okay? So he's not, he's not self-made. If he earned his money at all, he earned it by, selling stuff to a lot of other people who can afford to buy stuff. So that's part of the deal. So he should pay enormous money. He should pay a lot more taxes than he does. His corporation should pay a lot more taxes than he does. But anyway, so being a good businessman does not necessarily make a good president. And then, of course, Trump isn't even necessarily a good businessman. We don't know because he won't release his tax returns. and he has never run a publicly traded company. If you're going to sell shares on a stock, if you're going to sell shares in your company to the general public, you have to, under federal law, you have to report periodically how your company is doing. You have to report the results, the profit your company's making. All the time, reporters talking about, on an earnings call, people who run companies do phone calls where they talk to reporters about how their company's doing. And they don't have to do it that way, but they have to report the results to the general public. Donald Trump's never had to do that because he doesn't run a publicly traded company. He's always running, his company is privately held. It's only his family members. I mean, we don't know who owns it because he doesn't have to tell us. But so we don't know. For all we know, and what we do know about him is he loses lots of money. And, at least one author has suggested that if Donald Trump had taken the money he inherited from his father and just parked it in an index fund, he'd have more money now than he has as a result of his wheeling and dealing. He's really not a very good businessman. He's dumb as opposed to he's crazy, which doesn't make for a very good businessman. So anyway, and nobody knows why he ran for president. It's a pure ego. He's dumb as opposed, and I don't care why he ran. He did really lots of everybody. Anything he first could tell immediately, you're going to be a really bad president. He has been a really bad president. And they say that he ran because he got mad because Obama made fun of him at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. I don't know. Who knows? But regardless of why he ran, he was clearly, in fact, regardless of why he ran, he did in fact win only because he appealed very successfully. He had some intuitive sense that he appealed very successfully to the white supremacist rump that still has more power than it should in the United States. He is undoubtedly. I mean, we need to be very clear from this front beginning. Trump is racist. He's undoubtedly racist. He was racist before he ran, and he ran as racist. He ran explicitly as racist. He picked on Mexicans and Muslims during his campaign. And don't try this bullshit about how Mexican and Muslim in the race. It doesn't matter. It's the same basic move. What he did was he singled groups of people out on the basis of a completely irrelevant characteristic. Doesn't matter if you're Mexican, doesn't matter if you're Muslim, you should be welcome here in the United States. That's who we are. That's what we're about. We take all comers. And it's a good thing. We're much better for it. But he picked these people out on the basis of completely irrelevant characteristics and then tried to discriminate against them on the basis of that characteristic. It doesn't matter what the characteristic is, that's racism. That is basically, you can call it whatever you want to call it. That we call it racism because that's the basic model that he used was the model that we unfortunately still too often use for black people. We started out using for black people many years ago. But anyway, so Donald Trump is gross and trashy, and he's picking on Mexican and Muslims, and that should have turned everybody off. I mean, you say most Mexican murders and rapists, you already lost me. I cannot, I wasn't going to support him anyway. But even if I had, even if I for a moment thought, well, I want to vote for a trashy third-rate used car salesman who got lucky and inherited a fortune for president, which I never did think that. But if I started thinking that, started saying Mexicans Mexico isn't sending their best. They're not sending you. And look at these bunch of dumb people who are standing there. Oh, Donald Trump for president. Man, they're the best we got. They're not the best we got. My interest in imagination. Any Trump supporter is not the best the United States has to offer. Just full stop. If you support Trump, you're an idiot and you're as crazy as he is. But anyway, so if you're going to sit there and talk about Mexicans being rapists and murderers, you lose me immediately. I don't want anything to do with you. So of course, and so Trump is definitely racist, and no group voted for him at a lower rate than African Americans. And I should be very clear about the fact that I'm going to follow the African Americans rather than Donald Trump and white supremacists any day of the week. I was never really quite sure I understood why black people were so eager to vote for Joe Biden, but they were, and they did, and they black people did a whole lot of work towards helping Joe Biden win the presidency. And I don't care what anybody thinks about that. I'm okay with that. I'm going to follow black people. I'd rather have black people running the country than any white supremacists. And that's all there's to that. I don't want any white supremacists running the country at all. Because to be white supremacists is to be dumb. Basically, and that's part of Donald Trump. He appeals to white supremacists and he appeals to dumb people. And so, especially, white supremacists and Trump go together. They're not very smart. The white supremacists in the United States never got over the Civil Rights Act or the Voting Rights Act. And those are two of the most important pieces of legislation Congress has ever passed, in my opinion. And anybody who likes racial segregation wants to stop black people from voting. It's just, okay, you can take that opinion. You're free to have that opinion if you want to, but don't talk to me about it. I don't want to hear it. That's ridiculous. But so my primary purpose here is to talk about how stupid and crazy Donald Trump is, and how crazy and stupid all Republicans are. Republicans didn't know this when they first started doing it, but they set this trap for themselves when they elected Richard Nixon as president back in 1968 and 1972. Nixon won in 1968 with a silent majority shtick, which was dog whistle racism, right? So the noisy people at the time, the people who were the silent majority over here that was supposed to vote for Nixon, as opposed to the noisy people. The noisy people were the people protesting against the Vietnam War and African American civil rights protesters. Most Americans were okay, and they're still okay with the idea that we should end racial segregation. Hello, duh. And we should let African Americans vote, let black people vote. But they really kind of wanted the black people to shut up about it by 1968. They're like, okay, we did what you need to do, just shut them, go away, and get out of our faces. And then Nixon came up with a highly effective lie the Republicans repeat in ways that hid the racism involved. He quietly told white people that the federal government does nothing but take their money and give it to lazy black people. And that's the basic move that Republicans made in Nixon made, and Republicans have been repeating ever since. Your federal tax dollars go to just end up creating benefits for lazy black people, which is complete nonsense. It's really stupid. Numerically, of course, it's still the case. Always going to be the case, at least as long as white people are still the majority. African Americans only make about 13 to 14% of the population. So, of course, it's now the case that most of the people who actually benefit directly from federal programs are white, numerically. Even if black people are overrepresented relative to their percentage of the population in most of these programs. But white people are the majority of the beneficiaries. And, things like Medicare, there's no significant racial disparity. I mean, old people are old people. And if anything, black people are probably less likely to benefit from Medicare because they're less likely to live that long, because they typically get inferior health care all along, and for environmental racism, all sorts of reasons why black people have lower life expectancies than white people do. So Medicare probably benefits white people more than it does black people. And just in general, student loans, no, there's no significant racial disparity in this. It's really, really stupid to buy this whole notion about how the federal government only benefits black people. But that's also part of the reason why Republicans are in say tax cuts, because they want to try to starve the beast. It's not a beast, but they want to try to starve the federal government and eliminate all these federal programs. But so Nixon won on that, and then Ronald Reagan talked about welfare queens. We all know what welfare queens means: lazy black people. The elder George Bush had Willie Horton as his terrifying black criminal. Is his chief excuse to get himself elected the first time. The elder George Bush. George II, the younger George W. Bush, didn't win in 2000. And in 2004, instead of picking on black people, had gay people to pick on, which is for people who think that way. Pick on somebody. Gay people is good. Black people is a psychologically gratifying substitute for black people. So and then of course. McCain and Romney both lost against Obama because neither of them was very good at dog whistle racism. They're both, too honest or whatever you want to say about those two, McCain and Romney. And you have to give them both a little bit of credit. They're both Republicans, so they're both kind of stupid that way. But they were relatively honest as Republicans, and they didn't pick on Obama. Even though they had the best target ever for a racist campaign, and of course they would have had to be overtly racist, which would not have worked either. So that's why McCain and Romney both lost to Obama. But then, of course, inevitably, anytime black people make any sort of significant gains, such as, major civil rights legislation, we got Nixon as the backlash against the civil rights legislation of the 1960s. And then we got the first black president, and Trump is the backlash. Trump is the white supremacist backlash. So the problem that Republicans now have is that they can only keep their base motivated by using racism. Usually, it's supposed to be dog whistle. Nixon said use dog whistle racism, which worked well, because most Americans were willing to tolerate more racism than they should, but they really don't like explicit racism. African Americans did a really, really good job of making explicit racism the worst sin you could possibly commit in American politics. So your racism needs to be subtle, preferably. Okay, but Trump, of course, was very explicit about his racism. He's never been subtle about anything. And now that Trump's gone full voice of Republican racism, they can't get the toothpaste back in the tube, if you want to use a Watergate metaphor. Trump lost the popular vote in 2016. And I became president because the archaic, useless electoral college needs to go. It's useless. And he lost much worse in 2020 when he was the obvious Republican candidate. If a sitting president runs for his party's nomination, it's almost impossible to dislodge him. I mean, it just can't be done. Teddy Roosevelt tried that in 1912. And if Teddy Roosevelt can't do it, nobody can do it. But anyway. So now he's probably going to run again in 2024, which is going to the Republicans really going to be stuck because he'll probably be the obvious nominee in 2024 again, and he'll lose because again, so Americans don't like he's labeled himself a racist, and Americans don't like overt racism, so they're probably not going to elect him again in 2024 either. Tough. So anyway, and after that, who knows? We don't care. By that time, but at any rate, there are probably also people already talking about the fact that there will almost inevitably be a solid rump of Trump supporters who will go to their graves being quite certain that Trump got them. Stop the steal, boy. Trump got ripped off in 2024. Now, Hugo Chavez cooperated with the Dominion voting machine people to steal the election from Donald Trump. This is all complete nonsense. This is garbage. This is dumb. You have to be crazy and dumb to believe any of that nonsense to begin with. So we'll see how I do, but I'm gonna try to keep making these videos and see if they're at all popular, see if anybody cares about me. Bill, we don't care about your videos. Shut up. Go to the next line. I'm gonna give Phil a college try to see if I'm more popular in video than I am in writing. So thanks for watching my video. Oh, and I have a book out now. It's called The GOP Will Not Govern. It's available on Amazon. Go check it out. Go get my book, and it explains all in detail about how just Republicans these days only run for office because they want the prestige and the perks and the opportunities to enrich themselves. Republicans have no interest in governing. They have no interest in your well-being or my well-being or anybody's well-being except for themselves and their buddies. And they're doing a really lousy job, so don't vote Republican under any circumstances. Thank you for listening. Be well. Bye, Bonds. Bye-bye.